Welcome to the Beautiful Game Plan podcast, produced by Focus Shift Films and sponsored by Welsh sports fans. I'm your host, Daniel J. Harris. I'm a filmmaker and entrepreneur working across sport, and I'm a huge fan of sports content. This podcast is my chance to meet amazing people who are doing amazing things in the sports content space and to share their stories with you in the hope that it inspires ideas. On this episode, I have the amazing James Jones, the first and only dual code international rugby union and rugby league referee. James, welcome to the Beautiful Game Plan podcast. Kind of tell us how you got started with refereeing then. What's your story?
Well, Dan, thanks for the lovely introduction. I'd love to tell you a story about how I was this amazing, promising player and picked up a devastating injury, but truth be told, I wasn't tackling, I wasn't getting dirty, played a couple of games as a kid. Everyone thought I was going to follow my dad with his playing career as this hard man, and it just wasn't to be. So I kind of accepted from a young age that my dad went on to referee to a high level, started off going around with him as a ball boy initially, then touch judged, and did my first senior game of rugby union at the age of 13, got thrown into the deep end wearing his kit, very oversized. I never really looked back. It was something that I always had a passion for, good knowledge of the laws, and despite what spectators may say. But I took that route instead of playing. My friends went on to play. They were very supportive, and it was fantastic to follow that career and indeed realise there is a career in rugby and rugby league and rugby union, and this, even if you're not the best player in the world.
Fantastic. Yeah, you told me stories about when you've been there with your dad refereeing your oversized kit. Did refereeing come naturally to you? Do you kind of initially really enjoy it? Did it grow on you? And then where did that take you in your career? Kind of tell us about from those initial stages all the way through to some of the amazing things you've been doing.
Yeah, the game was amateur, so there were a number of international referees. So again, I was fortunate enough at a young age to be around Derek Bevan, our first World Cup final referee, was the figurehead of referees at the time, along with the likes of Clive Nolan and many, many others. But certainly, Bev, as we call him fondly, took me under his wing and, got very, very close and helped and coached and mentored me. And obviously my dad did. And it was an aspiration to become an international referee, despite the fact there wasn't money in the game. It was amateur. Obviously, the game did turn professional then. I was fortunate enough to earn a wage from it, turn professional, and then work my way up to international level. So it was always an aspiration. And from there, it was a case of traveling the world, went on the Sevens series for a number of years, refereed in the Sevens World Cup, which Wales won in 2009, probably cost me a final because I was at the pinnacle of my career, never won anything, not even a teaspoon, let alone a cup. And they went on to win the World Cup, which was a great experience to be there, but obviously, did cost me tongue in cheek. But it's been a fantastic career, and obviously in both codes I've been very fortunate to travel and experience the next best thing to play in. You're in the mix, you've got the best seat in the house. Yes, you get the pressure that comes with it, but it's been a fantastic career and one I'm very humbled at reflecting on.
Fantastic. And when you were one of those kind of key referees for the WRU and they were looking to downsize, there was yourself and Nigel Owens left there at the end. Can you tell us that story about how rugby union was going, how those opportunities were narrowing for you a little bit, and kind of what you did at that moment?
Yeah, I was on the international panel, and sadly, obviously, myself and Nigel they'd made a couple of others redundant prior to that. You could see that budgets are being squeezed. It's the nature of professional sport. So it was a tough time psychologically, knowing that I was in a pool of potential redundancies. And in reality, and I can say it now in reflection, I'm qualified in law, so I've got nothing to worry about. But, the reality was Nigel was flying at the time, and it was a case of I knew I was at the end of my professional career then, but not my refereeing career. I could still carry on and referee. It was just a budget cut. But psychologically took its toll on my confidence, knocked me dramatically, trying to get back into the real world of working a proper job, as my late father called it, and still refereeing. So decided to just take a year out initially and spend some time with the family and reflect on where I wanted to go. And I'm very good friends with many of the viewers may know Clive Griffiths, who coached Wales Rugby Union, coached Wales Rugby League, and played dual code as well. Straight on the phone, are you coming up north to referee Rugby League? And I was great. Look, I just want a year out, spend time with the family, and just regroup my thoughts. And within 48 hours, I had Ian Smith, who was the head of referees at the time with the RFL, on the phone, explaining that Griff had been on to him speaking, and I didn't need to be shy. He just pick up the phone. He'd love to have me. So kind of tucked up in a way, Dan. But I thought, well, never look the gift horse in your mouth. Let's go for it and give it a try, pardon the pun. Took up rugby league and went through the ranks, and fortunate enough to get to international level through some hard work and grit and determination, rebuilding in a different code.
So what was it like making the switch from union into rugby league? Were there massive changes? Were you welcomed with open arms? Was there any kind of animosity between the codes and you kind of move in? Talk us through that process.
Biggest animosity was my late father, because he's still old school. So telling him that I'd gone over to the dark side rugby league, I think he wanted to kick me out the house and never speak to me again. But no, I think times have changed. There's a lot of dual code internationals over the years that have made that change. It used to be, it wasn't a done thing. You couldn't do it. You weren't welcome back in Wales, and you were seen as turning, like I said, to the dark side. But the year in which I did it, it was welcoming. Yeah, it was challenging. The biggest challenges really was going from refereeing in front of 60, 70,000 people, European Cup matches, internationals, week in, week out, to literally starting at grassroots. It was going out on the parks pitches, refereeing teams that were lower level, but it's where I came from, and you never forget your roots. And I kind of enjoyed that challenge, and you could cheer the crowd, kind of giving you, I won't use the word abuse, constructive criticism. Going up north in particular with a Welsh accent was challenging. I think there's one story in particular where they have an issue up north with the Lancashire, Yorkshire referees crossing the boundaries, and they feel there's an element of bias when you get those derbies. And I was having a bit of abuse off one coach in particular, and decided to put him in his box by saying, look, mate, big Welsh accent. You're telling me about Lancashire, Yorkshire. I don't even know what Emdale Farm is, let alone where these boundaries are. So you picked the wrong day to give me abuse for that one. So kind of, they did warm to me. The comments were, as in rugby league, we shout move when we want people to move from a tackle, that being Welsh sounded like a cow in the field shouting move. It was those kind of humorous comments. But no, they've been welcoming. They were great. There's a pathway there which I was put on, and wasn't given any favouritism. Dan had to work hard to achieve what I did, and it was nice to be part of that setup.
Fantastic. And you've obviously gone and done some amazing things in rugby, had some amazing experiences. What has been the pinnacle of your union career and your league career? One of those big moments that you've been able to be a part of through being a referee that you wouldn't be part of without that?
I think certainly getting to international level, refereeing the first Rugby Union International was a milestone, and taking my mum and dad out to Portugal played Tonga. That was my first senior international, and it was a great special moment. And I think any player, any referee will tell you that, to represent your country is a massive honour. And then to do that in both codes, again, it was a lot of hard work and determination, but certainly those are the pinnacles. Very fortunate to referee the first rugby union game in the new Wembley Stadium, where Saracens played South Africa, which was a great occasion. It was almost a sellout crowd there. Been refereed many Junior World Cup finals, as I mentioned, been on the Sevens circuit for a number of years, which, although it's a quicker part of the sport, the razzmatazz, the crowd fancy dress, and going on that circuit was a fantastic experience. And transitioning over to rugby league in particular, being part of a Super League match officiating team was a daunting task, but it's very rivalrous. They're very much on top of each other. There's a friendly rivalry, but also hatred. It comes with the territory, and experiencing that kind of atmosphere was a new one. But I would liken it to going down to the south of France in some places and having the hostilities in rugby union in the European Cup back in the day. It is a similar kind of atmosphere, great crowds. I think the big thing about rugby league and rugby union is you can come off the field. Yes, people will disagree with you, but generally you'll have a beer, you speak to the fans. It tends to be 90% tongue in cheek. There's no hatred involved. So that's a good thing about the sport, is you can socialise and get to know people as well.
So you've talked about how you were a young player, you knew you weren't going to make it, you've got into refereeing, you've had this amazing career in refereeing, you're obviously very passionate about refereeing and have enjoyed a lot of these things. Why is it so difficult to kind of find and develop referees in rugby, and what more could be done to help that? It sounds like a great plan B for if a playing career doesn't work out, or perhaps for players coming to the end of a career looking to stay in the game. So why aren't there more referees, and what can be done to reverse that issue?
Yeah, I think certainly we've seen a number of ex-players now going into refereeing, and certainly, going through and representing themselves on an international stage. But both codes. Aaron Moore did it in rugby league, decided to give up playing career. Very promising player. He's now refereed internationally and is refereed in Super League. And it's happened in rugby union as well. So the mold is changing there, but trying to get youngsters into the game, it's probably not the most attractive position to be on the pitch. When someone says to you growing up, I was kind of unique. Do you want to be a referee? Kids will tend to go, are you serious? What? I want to play. I want to play for my country. It's not the done thing. But I think educating youngsters that there's only a small element of people that are privileged enough to get to play for their country, and certainly play age grade 60s, 80s, 20s. Do you kick on the senior cap level? If you've got those talents and attributes, I think what needs to be done is to educate these youngsters. You can make a living from it now. It is an actual career. There is a wage, there's a salary, and you get to be part of some fantastic tournaments, whether it's internationally, European, or around the world, and you get paid for it. So it's certainly better than having, as I mentioned, my dad's a proper job, so to speak. It's being there both sides, desk job and sporting job. But it's educating youngsters in particular. There is a path there, and if you're not the best player, you're not the most physically developed or skillful, why not give it a try? And I think that's part of what we need to do. And it was only this morning I was talking to the new referee manager for the Welsh Rugby Union, and he was of the same ilk, that we need to educate spectators as well, that we're getting young referees through. Let's not give them abuse. Let's support them and encourage. That's the next generation, because after all, without referees, there's no game. And I think that is the fact. That's a reality. So we need to encourage more people to get involved in sport and hopefully take it up and make a career.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think a lot of sports come at it from the same point of view. They're talking about how to be a player, how to be a coach. They're talking about the pathways, and the refereeing element gets forgotten about, because, like you said, if there's no ref, there's no game. And I worked on something at Eat Sleep Media for the FAW back, I think it was the year before last, where we created a promo video which basically said that. Do you mean without the referee, there's no game? So we come at it from the point of view of, instead of creating like an infomercial going, do you realize how important referees are? We kind of had a little bit of fun with it. So we had a couple of actors and a comedian, had a fake football match kind of going on at Taftswell, and the referee goes down with an injury, and there's a guy in the crowd and he's been shouting abuse. Oh, ref, you don't know what you're doing. You're an idiot. You're useless. All this. And then all the players start to walk off, and he says, like, well, what's going on? And one of the players says, well, no ref, no game. And he's like, well, what are we going to do? I come to watch this match. And his mate stands up and says, like, I can ref. I'm a qualified ref. And he goes on, referees the game, saves the game. And the comedian shouts, the referees are legend. And it's trying to change that perception, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, the referee's an important person, and they're absolutely vital to the game. Without the referee, we can't play football, we can't play rugby, we can't play most sports. So rather than the person in the middle's an idiot, the man, woman in black is useless, refereeing is for people who are rubbish, or people who are different or strange. It's kind of going, the referee is an important person, and you could be in a referee. You could be an important person for your sport, and changing that perception of it a little bit. And like you said, with education, so that people do realize there's a pathway to be a referee. There's a paid job. And actually, it's pretty good. Something else we did at Eat Sleep Media was filming with Cheryl Foster when she was over in Holland, refereeing a massive international game. And she's gone to the World Cup and Champions Leagues and all the rest of it. So after her playing career, she's gone into being a referee, and it's opened all sorts of doors. And I don't think people realize that. And there's more to be done on that, I think, isn't there, in changing that narrative?
There is, and I think it's not only about, we mentioned the professional end of the game, turning pro and travelling. There's endless opportunities. It is nice now that there is a fee involved in the game. And even if you're not professional, you can be semi-professional or even so-called amateur, but still get paid for what you do. But even you need those referees, male and female, that it's not all about the money. I started and I was very much going through the transition of the old school generation fighting for getting fees for referees, because that was the time we went on strike, and that's how bad it was, because we weren't getting paid and didn't think we were well represented in the Welsh Rugby Union. But I came through with the mentality of, look, I do this because I love what I do. I enjoy the sport, and I'd much rather be on a rugby pitch than going shopping on a Saturday. My fiance is going to kill me for saying that, but it's a harsh reality. I know I'd much rather be, as I'm sure many other sporting people would like to be. But I think it's not all about the top end of the game. It's about facilitating a sport that you can love and enjoy. And it's kind of sad to think, going back to what we touched on before, now you've got, when I was coming through, I sound like an old, an old school person, but I think there's now more access to online trolls, whereas before it would be a standing joke. My dad would phone me up and go, "Don't buy the Wales on Sunday today, boy, you're all over it," and it was like, right, mum can't go to chapel because you've had a hammer in, whereas now it's on your phone, it's online, there's people there that can get in touch with you through direct messaging and things like that. And it's a sad environment. So you've got to be hardened to it. You're putting yourself in the public domain. But, fortunately now, World Rugby are leading the way. Wayne Barnes is campaigning that can come off the back of a World Cup final with some horrendous abuse towards him and his family, and deservedly so, that there's prosecutions getting made now from online trolls. And I think that's a massive statement to say, look, have an opinion. I'm on many forums where I say, look, have an opinion, right, wrong, and different, perfectly fine. But don't get personal. These people are individuals. And I always said that my legacy, I want to be known as perhaps not the best referee in the world, or, maybe a very poor referee. But talking to people afterwards, people will go, "Do you remember James Jones?" Yeah, listen, terrible referee, but hell of a nice bloke, mind. Always come over and have a chat. And I was happy with that. I didn't want everybody to, agree with the decisions I made or tell me I was fantastic. Maybe I wasn't, and didn't have a good game. But providing I'm personable, it was important to see, look, I'm not just this person behind the screen. I am an individual. I've got feelings and sentiments. So it's important to educate the members of the public about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The referee is a person, they've got feelings, they've got family. And you start attacking a referee's kind of family for decisions they've made on the field, even if they've made the worst decision in the world on the field. Yeah, you can't start abusing their family and stuff like that. It's just not on, is it? And unfortunately, we're in a digital age where anyone can say anything to anyone else halfway across the world and can hide behind a computer screen or a fake profile or something. And so that makes it quite a daunting place for young referees. They're looking and going, "Oh, I might like being a referee. I could build a career in this." And then they see a top level referee getting abused online and think to themselves, that's I don't really want that in my life or my family's life. Maybe I'll give this a miss. And that could be part of the reason why we're missing out on referees coming into the game. I think the social media platforms, their constant struggle is, how do they stop people from abusing people across their platforms? And I'm not sure they're ever going to come up with a solid way of doing that. But I think if we can educate people and we can inspire young people into understanding that the refereeing is a great career choice, is a great opportunity, hopefully those numbers come through.
Riverside Sports Bar with Welsh sports fans is Newport's premier sports bar and has been voted best sports bar at the Welsh Hospitality Awards. With a range of huge TVs, an incredible food menu with burgers, dirty fries and much more, including vegan options, it is the place to watch sport. Visit www.riversidesportsbarnewport.com to find out more.
Something I think that we need a lot more of is young people getting into it. I was at the Gwent Cup final on the weekend, Newport Corinthians against Cwmbran, and the officials did a decent enough job, but the average age of the four officials of that game must have been about 75 or something. There was four kind of very old gentlemen kind of running that game, and they might be the most experienced, and so they might bring the most wisdom, but they've only got so long for their careers to continue before they need to stop doing it. You then need the next generation coming through again, don't you? How do we go about engaging more young people and bringing them into refereeing in all sports?
going into schools, I think, is a huge part of it. That's where, kids are like sponges, they take things on board. And I think when you're utilising active referees, past referees, back in the day, referee courses were run by, and I don't say it disrespectfully, it was just the nature of the beast, by retired referees that maybe have been there and done it. They were in their 50s. They'd walk into a school and, like a school teacher, really, youngsters will go, don't listen to him, don't listen to her. They're just not interested. Whereas, we've got a number of young referees now, both in league and union, that are active, they're fresh-faced. And I think if these guys go into schools, and females in particular, there's a number of them coming through now and explaining, look, this is exciting. Look at the dream I'm living. I never thought this was possible. You speak to kids in school and they go, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a Premiership footballer. Teachers shoot them down and go, no, get an education first, work hard, etc. Only a small pool of those players, kids, become a professional sportsman, or woman. So I think it's about engaging youngsters and children and saying, look, this is a career path. Encouraging 16-year-olds to say, right, you can now referee adult rugby. At younger ages, you can get involved in, whether you're injured or give it a go, your own age grades. Let them try it. Let's see how they get on. And if they don't take that as a career path, it certainly gives you life skills. All the attributes, your communication, your man management or woman management, if I can say that in the right way, your composure, your behavioural skills. There's so many skills that you can utilise and transfer that into professional life as well as sporting life. So it's making it accessible and encouraging youngsters to actually give it a go.
Yeah, I just think back to my school days in the 90s. You played football, there was the 20 boys, 10 against 10. The girls played netball, you played rugby, you played these things. And there was never an opportunity to referee or to learn how to referee, really. Or maybe those kids that were less active, less skilled at the sport, whether they could have an opportunity to referee. So they can still be a part of the sport and the activity, but it's not relying on their ability to play that sport. Refereeing could be an option for some of those children, and changing that perspective at that age for school kids, there might open more young people's eyes to the possibility and the opportunities of refereeing. It feels like, yeah, you do sport in school, but you don't actually learn about some of the refereeing and the rule making, and that there's other pathways into it. I suppose they don't even talk about coaching really in school. So there's definitely more opportunities there for engaging young people.
I think what it does do as well is we're looking at in Wales Rugby League now, trying to put as many players through, even if it's just a referee course. So not necessarily they're going to actively referee, but they've got the qualification, but it's educating them, the mindset, the skill set. And, when Graham Henry first came over to Wales, one of the biggest things that he did was he wanted us in as professional referees to talk about the tackle area. What is a tackle? And you had senior international players within Wales trying to describe the actual mechanics of what a tackle was in law and what they couldn't do, and they couldn't explain it. And he was mesmerised, saying, look, the biggest difference between you guys up here and where I've come from in New Zealand is the law book. These guys playing for the All Blacks know it back to front. Now, many a debate will be over the best player in the world at the time, Richie McCaw. Did he bend the rules? Did he cheat? Certainly knew the laws. And I think that's something that is phenomenal in why those players are so well educated. Sam Warburton came through for us, was one of the first to lead the way, very knowledgeable in the game. And it's amazing how many players now they're not interested. It's what can I do? What can't I do? Ask the coach, can I do this kind of that? They don't know the intricacies. So I think the more we can educate players, and that's across all sports, whether it be football, rugby, netball, just know what you can and can't do initially so you can have a better understanding. But I don't think there's enough of that goes on.
No, I think you're right. And I think especially in football, it's difficult at the moment because they seem to change the rules all the time. Now, I've been watching football for 30 years. I no longer know what is a handball and what is not a handball. And even after I've watched it 39,000 times on VAR, I still don't know whether something is handball or not. The ball has hit his hand or her hand, but is that handball? Football's in a very difficult situation with its officiating at this moment in time, isn't it? How, from a rugby point of view, looking at football, what do you think football can learn from rugby, and what changes would you make in football to make officiating easier and simpler and for the audience to understand it? Because I think VAR has created more problems than it's solved, and now most football fans hate VAR. And I think the byproduct of that is more hatred towards referees, because even after they watched it a number of times, they're still not making the right decision. What can football learn from rugby?
I think one of the concepts for me, and I watch a lot of football as well, Dan, and it's frustrating because the concept of clear and obvious in rugby union, rugby league, we're always told clear and obvious decisions. And I sit down on a Saturday, watch match of the day, and they're drawing lines across the field for offsides, etc. And it's almost come down to a point of, well, if that player cut his toenails last night, he wouldn't be offside, you know. And it's crazy thinking clear and obvious. Does it have an impact on play? And I know there's intricacies and variables that are different controllables, but we just need to keep it as simplistic as we can. And the other thing I feel that in rugby union and league, we're broadcasters, match officials, everybody can hear what we're saying. They can hear clear communication when they're watching a match. If you're in the ground, you can buy earpieces and you can listen to us. It educates fans. It brings you part of that experience. You actually know what's going on. And for the life of me, when you watch football still in the modern day and age, with the technologies out there, referees are not broadcast. And we have to ask a question and continue to ask it. Why on earth not? Because surely if they're having that dialogue with players and it's respectful, there should be no issue. I've had a couple of comments where, well, you know, the language on the field is spoken, but then you ask yourself, well, then the respect has to come from the top. Rugby union player does not use abusive language on match officials. If they say something in jest or frustration, they're told, excuse me, it's being broadcast and you have a duty of care to the game itself to be ambassadors. Whereas in football, you see players surrounding referees when they make decisions, running towards them, appealing. And I think the sooner the FA and FIFA back referees and saying, actually, no, don't care what you're getting paid. You run at the referee, gesture at them, you're going to get booked. And even whether it's 10 minutes, let's bring in the sin bin, you know, and I've been crying out for that for years. You're going to walk for 10 to cool down, come back on. If you carry on, you're going to have a red card. It'll soon stop, but it's got to come from the top down, because you can't ask somebody refereeing on a parks pitch on a Sunday to instill discipline with players talking to them, talking down to them, etc. When you turn on Match of the Day or watch a Premiership game on Sky or whatever the broadcast is on, and they're screaming and shouting at the referees. And it is getting better, Dan, but it's frustrating that we're still, I think, behind the times in football. Utilise the technology, don't hide. We will make mistakes. Those referees will make mistakes. We've seen various VAR calls where footage has been so-called leaked into the public domain afterwards with a dialogue. But broadcast the dialogue. If they've made a mistake, they've made a mistake. They're getting paid to do a job. Accept it, learn from it, move on. It happens in our sport, in league and union. So I don't know why there's this almost golden circle around these officials where you can't hear what they're saying week in, week out.
It's accountability, isn't it? We all make mistakes. You've made a mistake as a referee, but if you own it, and I think that communication element of them explaining why they've made the decision, as an audience member watching it, you go, why's the referee done that? What on earth? What's the referee doing? In rugby and in NFL as well, the referee is explaining the situation, explaining the thought process. In the NFL, they stop the game, they look up to the camera, he presses his microphone, says, player number 33, offside, I've seen this decision I've made. And everybody knows. Well, it's in football, it feels like over the last 2 years, there's been more conversations around what's the referee thinking, why have they done that, what's going on here, this doesn't make any sense, than actually about the games, the tackles, the goals, and the beautiful game side of it. It's more around what on earth is going on here? Why has the referee made that decision? What's the VAR on about? And then when it does get leaked, it makes them seem a little bit daft and devalues them then, doesn't it? Whereas if there was that communication throughout and you understand that thought process, now those referees probably make 95 decisions right and 5 wrong. But because they broadcast the VAR referees talking about the ones they got wrong, you get that perception if they don't know what they're doing. They haven't got a clue. They've got that wrong. Not the other 95 that they got right. It's that one they got wrong. And it's all adding up to putting referees and refereeing in a difficult position where they are not appreciated, to put it politely. And that damages the game, and that stops young people wanting to become a referee, I think, isn't it? So it's a difficult situation. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There needs to be a change in the perception around referees from the top down and how referees are to talk to, quite frankly, in football, and respected. And with that respect will come better officiating and hopefully more people coming in to officiate. So fingers crossed there'll be some changes in football, but I'm not going to hold my breath as to when.
No, you're dead right. And I think as well, what it does do is, as we spoke when we first met, it gives the public watching the sport an opportunity to agree or disagree. Now, there's always going to be that, whatever sport you look at, but at least, as you mentioned, you have an understanding. Whereas at the moment in football in particular, you see something and go, oh, that's the decision. No understanding as to why, how, what on earth. So you're guessing, offside or handball or foul. Don't understand, no explanation. Whereas if a referee gives a quick explanation of this, like they do in rugby union, penalty, you're off your feet. You had two choices, chose the wrong one. Whatever terminology you wish to use, spectator can watch and go, that was a bit harsh, but I can understand why. Or
Yeah,
I wouldn't have seen it that way, but I can understand why. Because if you took the microphone away from our beautiful sport, rugby union, rugby league in particular, then it goes back to a guessing game again. You're watching footage going, commentators are guessing, going, what's that? Oh, that's a penalty. Well, we've seen a signal. We can't really understand why he's given that. What's the build-up? Has he spoken to players or she spoken to players on the run? Look, if you carry on knowing not to deal with you, I'm asking you not to do something, you're not listening. There's a penalty coming. They've tried to prevent that penalty, players not listening. But if you don't hear that, you just see the decision, oh, that's the first one they've given. Why haven't they given others? No, they've been trying to prevent stoppage in play, but you get no credibility or pat on the back for it.
exactly. And it comes back to that fan engagement, doesn't it? Like, I get really frustrated watching Premier League football at the moment. Like with us, I used to watch almost every Premier League game that was broadcast. I love it, kind of sitting there watching it. And now, unless it's a really big game or a game I really want to see, I kind of look at it and I go, "Oh, it's gonna end up annoying me. I'm gonna end up getting frustrated. VAR's gonna waste 10 minutes of that game. I'll go and do something else." I think that fan engagement, that audience enjoyment of football is waning a little bit at the moment because VAR is not helping the situation and not helping referees. So I'm all for getting rid of it. It's not like in cricket or tennis where did the ball touch the stumps? Is the ball in or out? It's black and white. It's fact. It's the ball hit that person's hand. Is that handball? That is still up in the air. That's down to an individual's kind of perception of it. And when you watch it over and over and over again with no explanation, you think, oh, I got no idea. It's exhausting me watching this football match because this is not enjoyable, and I'm going to go and watch something else. So yeah, I think it's damaging the game, definitely.
It's a tough balance, I think, because that's what you find in all sports. When you bring in this technology, I've said for years, look, I started my career where the TMO, as it's called in union, was coming in and their protocols were really tight and rigid. You can only go back and review X, Y, and Z. And sometimes you think, look, we've got the technology here, to a point where in one stadium in particular, looking at a big screen when a player's lining up a conversion, they're replaying it in the stadium, knowing exactly what they're doing. The kicker's taking ages, and I've dropped the clanger. And I can see that replay on the screen, but I cannot go to the TMO to correct that because of protocol. And you're thinking, look, all fans want is right or wrong decisions. They don't want the game to be stop-start. All they want is the right outcome. So if something is clearly an error that's led to a goal, led to a try, or whatever that may be, intervene, stop it, thank you very much, and we can move forward so we don't get the wrong outcome. But sometimes, and it is a difficult job, and I empathise with the lawmakers in all sports because you want to engage in fan engagement and get them involved and not have stop-start, but you also want the right outcomes. And believe me, there's nothing worse having been there than being a match official on the field. You know it's the wrong outcome, but you can't do anything to go and check on it, despite the fact that it's clear to everyone that's watching and being broadcast that you have dropped the clanger. So it's a tough balance all round.
Yeah, I can imagine that becomes a lonely place, stood on the field with a whistle in your hand, thinking, "Oh, I've made the wrong decision.
You're telling the kicker, do me a favour, mate, just kick the ball over the post with him. He's going, mate, I'm going to milk this. I want another replay first because he's from the home side and he's enjoying the replay. So, yeah, it can be a very tough place to be, believe me.
Brilliant. And I suppose that kind of brings me to one of my final questions. What advice would you give to any young sports people thinking about refereeing? Like, obviously, we've talked about some of the pros, the cons, the challenges. What advice would you give to a young person who's thinking about becoming a referee in any sport?
Give it a go. Have a try at it, see how you feel. And it isn't for everybody, but I think certainly, as I mentioned, it is arguably the next best thing to being on the field and involved in those great environments, is facilitating sports, and it can lead to a career. So I'd certainly say don't be set back, don't be discouraged, try it. There will be challenges. You're going to get constructive criticism, if I can use that word, from spectators, parents in particular, if you're starting out. But hey, become a better person from it. Learn from those experiences, harden yourself up, and thrive in the opportunity of going, no, I'm going to go again. I'm going to prove the doubters wrong, because I've had a fair few of them where you come off, you think, I've been pretty much abused for 80 minutes, or 70 minutes, depending on the age group. But stick at it, because the rewards far outweigh the negatives if you do stick in. And there's a lot of people in all sports now, I'm sure, that are around, and that's what I'm doing now, is putting a bit more back into developing younger referees. And, the phone calls on a Sunday or a Saturday night, it can be a lonely place. Talk to people around you that understand. Don't go home, chuck your whistle in the bin and go, I'm never doing that again. Learn from it. And then if you need somebody to go to the next match and hold your hand and watch you, then go again. Give it a go and see how you get on.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for chatting to me today, James. I thoroughly enjoyed that, and hopefully the people at home watching or listening have enjoyed it as well. And maybe we've inspired a couple of new referees to enter football, rugby, or any other of the games. So just before we say goodbye, where can people find out more about you?
So I'm online. I'm on James Jones Ref on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. So, like I said, I'm trying to get a bit more development work going on, etc. And a new line of work now that I just launched my personal training business, JGRPT. So again, putting things back into the sporting community and inspiring people to change their lives and their habits. So passion of mine. So yeah, I'm back in the sporting world, which is lovely, and place which I love and thrive upon.
Fantastic. Well, I wish you all the best in that. Thank you to those at home that are listening or watching. We hope you've enjoyed it as well.
Diolch, thank you.
Don't forget to like and share this episode and subscribe to the channel for more content.